Hey you guys, Jenna here. I am super excited to be with you today because of this little show thing that I've got for you today. I'm so excited about this concept. I want to talk with you today about the idea of an emotional first aid kit. And that may be a little bit out there in left field for you if you haven't thought of doing this before, but I love this concept. So you guys are familiar with a regular first aid kit, right? Something that you use, that you carry with you, that you have on hand for when things come up so that you can be prepared in a crisis, you know what to do, and you've got the tools to do it, right? Makes perfect sense. But have we ever considered doing that for our emotional well-being? It's going to look a little different. It's going to operate a little differently than a physical first aid kit will, but the function is so essential and it's such a cool concept. So I want to share with you this idea. This is kind of like the idea here is to be prepared, right? So that when something comes up, you have a plan in place to do it. It's like we teach our kids, right? When you want to prepare them before the situation arises where they might be tempted to use substances we would prefer they not use, right? We want them to have a plan in place and have made the decision long before that moment comes so that when the moment arrives, there's no thinking, there's just doing, right? I know what happens when this situation comes up. I know what I'm going to say and how I'm going to respond. That's the idea of an emotional first aid kit. Same concept if you've ever tried to stick to a healthy eating plan, right? And you're headed off to a holiday party, you have a plan in place before you go of what you're going to do and how you're going to act in that moment when that happens. So with the emotional first aid kit, it's just translating that same concept and giving yourself some tools and making an action plan. What will I do when I'm in crisis emotionally? What will I do when I'm hurting emotionally? How will I help myself through that time? How will I close that loop a bit faster, right? How can I create healing for myself so that I can move forward and not be weighed down by my emotions, okay? So I want to share with you some ideas of things you could have in your first aid kit. Now, clearly in this situation, this isn't all going to fit in a little box that you can throw in your purse, right? So what I'm suggesting you do is have a couple of cards, right? Have some things, some guidance of what you're going to do, some ideas of the things that we're going to talk about, and I'll come back to this in a minute. But just realize this isn't going to be something you try to stuff in a box and have sitting by your bedside, right? You might have a few key components in a little box that can be cute, but so some things that can help, right? Some go-to items when I'm not feeling well, when you're not feeling well. For me, one of the first things is prayer, right? I love to go to prayer, to communicate with my higher power, to help just pour out my feelings and get some comfort there. So prayer is on my list. Affirmations. If you've been with us very long, you've probably heard me talk about affirmations, using essential oils in conjunction with that. I love the emotional aromatherapy kit, and I have essential oils definitely as one of my number one go-to strategies when I'm hurting emotionally. I love these little bottles. They're fantastic. Along with that, I love to use one of these rice bags. This is something literally just in the last year that I've allowed myself this luxury. I don't know why I never thought to do it before. It just felt like, I don't know, silly and whatever, but I love this now. You warm up the rice bag in the microwave, put some essential oils on it, curl up with some warm fuzzy socks under a blanket in front of a fireplace if you have one. Drink some tea, right? That's on my emotional first aid list. Sometimes there's some chocolate involved, right? If you haven't tried these, you guys don't, because you'll never stop eating them. It's kind of dangerous, so pretend I didn't show you that. But just something to help you feel cozy, right? Also, scripture reading, right? Journaling, gratitude journaling. For me, there are certain books that I know that if I read from that book, I will feel more peaceful. I will feel more relaxed. I will be able to release anger, whatever it is that I'm feeling. Marianne Williamson, for me, is one of those authors that just pretty much everything she writes, I just love. It resonates well with me, and it brings me peace, and it helps me get back to a place of being that I want to operate from, right? A space of love and acceptance and peace rather than anger and frustration and guilt and annoyance and these emotions that I am okay feeling, but I don't want to live in that space, right? And I think that's one of the things that's most important in our emotional first aid kit is that you write a little note to yourself. And it's okay, just call it note to self, right? When you open it up, here's what it's going to say. Okay? It's okay to feel what you're feeling. I want that physical thing in your emotional first aid kit because it's so hard sometimes when we're feeling emotions that specifically things like embarrassment or guilt or anger or shame, emotions that we feel like aren't acceptable, that aren't okay. If we're feeling sad or lonely, those are things that feel like socially acceptable to feel, right? But when we're feeling angry, when we're feeling bitter, when we're feeling mad, we're feeling embarrassed, those feelings are not as easy to accept in ourselves. And so the first thing that we have to do to be able to process any emotion is to just realize that it's okay to feel what I'm feeling, and we'll process through it so much faster if we give it permission to be there, right? We're designed to feel all sorts of things. And when we try to avoid feeling those things, that's when we get ourselves into trouble, right? That's when we turn to other substances. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's food, maybe it's TV, right? Maybe it's the internet, some form of distraction to keep us from feeling what our bodies and our souls are trying to feel. Whereas if we could just allow ourselves to feel it, we would be able to move through it so much faster and without all of the pain that comes from trying to avoid it. So that's the first step, okay? Create a space for yourself for healing. Create a little bit of time and space where you can dive into your emotional first aid kit is the first thing. Second thing, right there on the top of that emotional first aid kit, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. I want you to remind yourself of that when things come up. Then I want you to have the list of all the things. Some of this might cross over with your joy list if you've seen that video from me about joy list, right? Some of these things might be the same. Cup of hot chocolate and a good book, right? Cozied up in front of the fireplace, going on a walk outside. But put some things on your list that you know help you to feel better. And then from there, based on what you're feeling, the emotional solution could be quite different from one situation to the next. What you need to help you feel better when you're sad or lonely or hurt might be very different than what you need when you're angry and frustrated and feeling resentful, right? In those situations, you might want to go for a run. You might want to do something physical that just helps you shake that feeling and literally get it out of your body. When you're feeling sad or upset or afraid, that's when you might feel more like cozying up with a good book in front of a fireplace, right? So the solutions could be very different, but I want you to put everything on the list you can think of that helps you to feel better, because then you have a plan in place. Then when you go to use your plan, when you open up this emotional first aid kit, look at the things on your list and create an experience for yourself, okay? Create a space of healing. Pick 2 or 3 things off that list that you can combine together to create an experience that's going to help you process your emotions and feel better. So maybe for you, that's I'm going to take a hot bath. I'm going to put some essential oils in my diffuser that help me to feel good, and I'm going to journal. I know that's what I need right now. Or, you know what, I'm feeling really angry, so I'm going to go for a run, and then I'm going to do some tapping because that helps me process my emotions, right? Or I'm going to have some hot chocolate, and I'm going to call a good friend, right? Somebody that I know I can trust, somebody that it's okay to process emotions with, that doesn't judge me, that loves me unconditionally, that kind of a thing, right? So put all those things on your list and then choose from your list. You've got the action plan in place. Now you just need to pick the appropriate actions for the moment that you're in and just follow your intuition. Things will jump off of that list at you because it's what you need in the moment, okay? So that's the next step. And then the last thing that I want to mention is just to be okay with the process, right? Whatever comes out of this, you might give yourself an hour in the evening that your kids are in bed and you're going to just allow yourself to process some feelings and use some tools from your emotional first aid kit. An hour might not be enough, right? 10 minutes might be enough, but there might be times when an hour is not enough. And just be okay with that. Realize that sometimes things take more than one run through, and that the goal here isn't to avoid or to just get through the pain really quickly. It's just to allow yourself to be human and to experience what you're experiencing, right? To figure out what the things are that help you to feel better, and to do that in the moment so that you can move through your life in a way that feels happier and healthier and more connected, right? That you're more connected with yourself and with your higher power and with the people around you. That is what helps us through difficult times, and what helps us to feel joy in our lives is connection, rather than dulling those feelings, removing ourselves from situations where we might feel pain, utilizing distractions like we talked about earlier so that we don't have to feel it. Let's give ourselves permission to feel it and then be okay with the process if it takes more than once, right? There's so many tools you can use, you guys. Meditation, tapping, prayer, scripture reading, gratitude journaling, exercise, talking with a good friend, right? Just all of these things can help us process. And ultimately, if you need it, absolutely consider therapy as a tool, right? That's okay to have therapy on your list. Do energy work sessions, right? Be okay having support for your emotional well-being, because there's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot of energy flying around. There's a lot of things happening in each of our lives. And sometimes we just need support to process through those. And don't be afraid to do that. Give yourself permission to get the support that you need emotionally. So I hope this is helpful to you guys. Have these couple of little things, right, in your emotional first aid kit. Your list of what to do, your note to self, and then your list of the specific things that you know help you feel better. Okay, you guys, thanks for being with me. Talk to you later.